Bitcoin can easily 10x, and we've done
Yeah.
10, 17x before too. And with the nation states buying with unlimited bullets, they can really quickly bid this up very quickly. So the question is how fast they can move is one dimension of it. If they can go quickly, maybe there's a chance. But I think as soon as they start to buy in numbers, like serious buys, like buying 100,000 coins, reaching that 100,000 target, I think we're going to start to see Bitcoin shoot up very rapidly to maybe 5 million a coin.
With nation states entering the market, Bitcoin could surge to $5 million in record time. That's the latest prediction from Jan3 CEO Samson Mow. More and more governments have been setting their sights on Bitcoin as a hedge against their country's economic struggles. As these nations build their Bitcoin strategic reserves, the possibility of Bitcoin skyrocketing to $5 million per coin becomes increasingly realistic. But with the possibility of hyperbitcoinization, the real question is whether Bitcoin's dollar value will even matter in the future. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video, as Samson Mow shares his take on hyperbitcoinization and Bitcoin's future beyond dollar value. Also guys, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy staying up to date with finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Now, here's Samson Mow with his take on Bitcoin's future.
Bitcoin can easily 10x, and we've done 10, 17x before too. And with the nation states buying with unlimited bullets, they can really quickly bid this up very quickly. So the question is how fast they can move is one dimension of it. If they can go quickly, maybe there's a chance. But I think as soon as they start to buy in numbers, like serious buys, like buying 100,000 coins, reaching that 100,000 target, I think we're going to start to see Bitcoin shoot up very rapidly to maybe 5 million a coin. If a nation state is buying in size, you kind of have to understand that you probably shouldn't sell it. So when Bitcoin starts to go really exponential, like it's going from 1 to 2 million to 3 million, then I think people are going to question, what exactly am I selling the Bitcoin for? Why am I selling it for the dollars that the government is spending to buy Bitcoin? And what am I going to do with the dollars? What is the interest rate on those dollars? Like how am I monetizing my dollars then? And at the same time, geopolitically, countries are moving away from the dollar. So maybe it's declining in usage in international trade. So there's a lot of dimensionality to this that I think people have to think about and consider, but they're definitely going to see it firsthand and they'll have to deal with it on the spot when it hits. But I just think there is a point at which you can no longer be oblivious to what's happening, and you have to understand, like, okay, I'm going to sell Bitcoin to the government for $5 million, and what do I do with that now? Like merchants are starting to price things in sats. So did I make a bad trade? Simply, like, people don't want bad money. Like they'll realize quickly, like, okay, my neighbor is not accepting it, or the corner store is not accepting the fiat anymore, and they'll quickly realize that they should start buying in Bitcoin. And at a certain point at which that happens, people just start pricing it in satoshis.
Do you think it's possible that one Bitcoin could be worth 164 million US dollars by the next 8 years?
I would say theoretically yes, but practically no, because there's a point at which it just cuts off and you stop denominating things in dollars, right? It just makes no sense anymore. Like, does anyone care what the exchange rate of the euro is to Deutschmark? Not really. So you just go to sats at some point. I would say probably in the million range, it just starts to drop off and people just start using sats. And then we just have deflation from that point. There's a lot of pricing that has to be done. So we'll see how it happens, but generally these things happen very quickly. The expectation, I think, of a lot of people, including Bitcoiners and some Bitcoin bulls, is that it's going to happen over like a 20-30 year period. But if you look at the collapse of currencies, they happen very rapidly, and it's typically very chaotic. So we'll see how it goes, but this is sort of why I think it's important that we do outreach and we try to get parallel systems into place where countries can have both currencies at the same time, Bitcoin and their native currency, and transition as gradually as possible. But I would say Max Payne theory dictates that it's going to happen very quickly and chaotically, and no one's ready for it except for you and me and a couple others. Yeah. This is all happening very quickly. I personally thought nation-state adoption would happen, probably in a year or in 2 years' time, and nation-state attacks on Bitcoin would not happen until maybe now. But everything's accelerating from the schedule I had. So my expectation now is that it's going to happen faster than I think it will. That's why I'm saying, the next year probably will hit 1 million. I thought maybe this year, but it's difficult to predict these things because Bitcoin is on this exponential growth curve. And when you're standing right in front of it, just imagine you're staring at this massive wave coming at you. You remember in Interstellar? You've seen Interstellar, right?
I watched part of it. I didn't get to the
the water wave, right? And initially they say, "Oh, it's mountains," and then Matthew says, "Oh, it's a wave. Those are waves. It's a wave, right?" But you're looking at something far in the distance, and it's hard to tell. And if you're looking at Bitcoin's exponential growth, you're kind of staring at this wall, and it's like all in front of you, all around you, and it's just approaching you very quickly. But you don't really have a sense of how far away it is. But the thing is, you can look at it and maybe see some details on it that indicate that it is coming closer. But it's impossible to see exactly how big this thing and how fast it is moving towards you because it's everywhere. So that's how I view it. Like, we're trying to figure out when this wall is going to hit us, but you can only kind of rough out details on it to tell how close it is to you because it's so big.
Just recently, new developments have emerged that could bring the long-awaited US Bitcoin Strategic Reserve closer to reality. A newly uncovered draft executive order from the Bitcoin Policy Institute outlines a plan to designate Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, with President-elect Donald Trump expected to sign it on his first day in office. The proposal calls for using the Treasury's Exchange Stabilization Fund to acquire Bitcoin, treating it as a finite, decentralized asset to strengthen the US economy and maintain global leadership. The draft goes further by laying out specific steps for implementation, including a 60-day timeline to launch a Bitcoin acquisition program and a mandate to transfer all federally held Bitcoin to the reserve within a week of the order being signed. Managed by the Treasury Secretary, the reserve would be subject to audits and strict oversight to ensure security and transparency. These provisions represent a concrete framework that could turn speculation into action. Trump himself has hinted his plans for crypto, which has only added weight to the growing momentum behind this initiative. If enacted, these developments will be huge for both Bitcoin and the US economy. However, this doesn't guarantee that all nations will immediately embrace the idea. But before that, today's video is brought to you by Crypto.com. If you still haven't got a crypto card yet, you're living in the past. Traditional cards have annual fees and transaction charges, but the Crypto.com Visa card doesn't. You can spend your crypto anywhere, and the benefits are amazing. With your Crypto.com Visa card, earn up to 5% back in CRO rewards on every transaction. Enjoy 100% cashback on Spotify, Netflix, and Amazon as a new customer for 6 months. Get complimentary access to airport lounges with a sleek metal card. Crypto.com is giving a $25 sign-up bonus for Jan3 viewers. Here's how to get your $25 bonus and start earning up to 5% back. Download the Crypto.com app via the first link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. Sign up using our referral code nutty for an instant $25 bonus. After approval, here's how to get your Crypto.com card. In the Crypto.com app, first tap the Card tab on the navigation panel. Select your card tier based on the required CRO staking amount. I have a Ruby Red card. You need to lock up 400 USD of CRO for 180 days, which is then unlocked. Accept terms and conditions and ensure you have sufficient CRO in your wallet for the stake period. Then, submit your delivery address. You'll then receive your Crypto.com Visa card, start making transactions, earning rewards, and enjoying the perks. To claim your $25 bonus and earn up to 5% back on transactions, Click the first link in the description to get started with Crypto.com today. Now back to the video.
I would say the pushbacks are really motivated by politics. Like there are some countries that, let's say, they're in Europe and they want to join the EU, then they're probably going to shy away from Bitcoin. Even though they know it's a good thing and they might have it themselves, they have their own goals and agendas to pursue. And maybe Bitcoin doesn't fit into that agenda. But other than that, I would say it's very binary. Either they know and they're going to try to do something quickly, or they don't know and they think it's fine and then they don't want to do anything at all.
Yeah.
So it's either one or the other, really. If I do hear some of those things, I just kind of point to BlackRock and say, you go tell them it's a pyramid scheme, or you go tell them it's a scam. Like, it's the largest asset manager on the planet. Like, what more certainty do you need that it's a legitimate asset class? I don't know. If that doesn't convince you, nothing can. But yeah, I mean, other criticisms, it's generally more like we don't need it, or we think we're fine. That's the general sentiment. They just don't think it's one, going to become money, and two, they don't see any problems, even though from the outside looking in, we can see problems in the country there, and they probably need Bitcoin. But generally they think it's fine, and maybe that's a symptom of the disconnect of governments and the people, right? Like in Canada, we have a lot of societal problems, which I think you're aware of, and economic problems. But I forgot when I saw some campaign from the Green Party, and they're saying, we're going to fix the climate. And it's like, that's your top priority? Really? Like, there's a drug, there's a major drug endemic here. And, people are ODing and just high out of their minds on the streets, and there's massive amount of crime, and you think that's number one, huh? I like to have hope, and I think there is a chance that the Trump administration could fix things, but it takes very radical thinking, like disregarding the shitcoin. Let's say the Doge initiative in and of itself is to downsize government and cut spending. I think it's a good thing. Whether or not that will stimmy the debt growth and fill the hole is a separate issue. I don't think it will, but at least they'll be on a better track. And if they do switch over to Bitcoin, there is a chance that there's hope. If they don't do something significant in Bitcoin, I don't think there's much hope. So we'll see. It's difficult because nobody wants change, right? Everyone has their own interests, and doing something like Bitcoin is even harder because you're fighting against entrenched perceptions on Bitcoin and just general ignorance about the necessity of Bitcoin or even money. The biggest downstream impact that Bitcoin can have is it restores our ability to be sovereign individuals. That's largely been taken away from us because centralization is convenient, and centralization of money supply and money management is definitely a huge convenience. But now we have this decentralized system that offers the same thing. So you can keep your money yourself and transact it yourself without an intermediary. And that changes the entire dynamic. I think it has an impact on the ability for countries to wage war as well. I strongly think that most people don't want war. People just want to build their families and see their children grow up happy. Nobody wants their kids to go die in a war. That's largely from government's brainwashing or forcing them to send their kids to war, right? But generally, if you ask someone, like, do you want your kids to go die somewhere else? They say no. And there might be good reasons, like protecting your borders from an attack or an invader, and you need to defend. But generally, like, a lot of wars are quite frivolous these days. Like, we think that guy's bad, or he's got something bad, and we're gonna go there, right? I think Bitcoin will start to change that dynamic, that you can't finance a war because nobody will willingly give up their money to finance a war where their kids are gonna have to go die somewhere. But on that note, I think as well, at the same time, you'll start to see the emergence of people doing better things with their money than financing wars. Like, if you look at it, technology has not really advanced that much in the last couple decades. We thought we'd have flying cars and whatnot. So a lot of that innovation and advance through technology that we've had has sort of been siphoned away to people that have a lot of fiat, and they can use that fiat to create more fiat, and they might buy assets, or they might just sit on that and have it grow over time. But they're definitely not investing in new technology. But maybe we'll see Bitcoiners that are self-sovereign invest into technology again and advance the development of our civilization. So maybe the focus will change from war to development, and we'll live in a better place because of it. That actually ties into an interesting thing I've been thinking of. So I'm making a game called Infinite Fleet, and I did a lot of thinking about how governments might work in the future. I think Bitcoin should have a transformative effect on governance itself, whereby everything is more based on consensus, like the Bitcoin protocol. You're a part of consensus. Nobody can overrule the protocol arbitrarily and change it. They can try, but they'll fail. But I think governments have to evolve, because democracies are largely like a 51% attack. And it can be manipulated easily. If you break everything down, really, whoever has the most money gets to pick the next government, right? It's all about how much you can campaign and spend on ads and going around, flying around. And yes, you can be clever and spend less and beat your opponent, but that's not generally the case. Generally, whoever is able to reach those eyeballs can convince them to vote. And the incentive in this democracy is also, once you're in power, you want to distribute money to people and buy their votes for re-election, right? Everyone wants free stuff, even though it's not free, and they don't understand it's not free. But people haven't really figured that out yet. Bitcoin will help them with that. But the whole premise of democracy is that it is easily attacked, right? There's a lot of concern about outside interference and whatnot, but to me, that just signifies it's a very brittle system. Like, if you have to worry about, I don't know, like they love to say Russian influence or Chinese influence, then maybe the system is bad, that they can influence the elections here. Maybe we should think about a better way. And, the best way is probably a consensus-based system where everyone has to agree for rules to change. Otherwise, the rules just balloon and grow out of control, whereby you can't even know if you're breaking the law or not, because the law is evolving, because you created this body that just makes laws. And there's nothing in their charter that they need to remove a law. So imagine you have a game designer building a game. They can keep adding more rules, but they never remove anything. Or you have a code base that they're just adding more complexity to the code and never refactoring the code to make it function as a whole. That's really what government has turned into. It's a machine that makes laws and consumes money. And there's nothing there that makes them simplify, streamline, and optimize, which I think Elon Musk and Vivek seem to want to do. They want to put expiry dates for laws, which makes sense too. But a better model is rethink the whole thing and figure out how we can have governance without being ruled effectively. We have rules, but no rulers. So some sort of consensus-based system is probably what I believe is the best way, instead of having some group of people appointed to make rules for everyone else. Then you have to kind of lobby them, right? I think new rules have to have a supermajority agreeing before it can pass. And there is a counterpoint. When I presented this idea, people say, well, then no one will be able to make any new laws. And I'm like, well, maybe that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need that many laws. You just need some foundational rules, like don't steal, don't kill, don't do a certain number of things, and the rest is just flavor. And you can't park your car here on this hour from this hour. Those things are not that important, and you can figure out other ways to enforce some bylaw type regulations. But generally, I think a deregulation is needed, and we can see that it has a massive beneficial effect in Argentina, right? Housing costs, rental costs were skyrocketing. Milei deregulated it, and it all fixed itself. He's deregulating money. Now they have a surplus. You kind of need to add two and two together. And the incentive for government is not to eliminate itself. So there has to be some external forcing function that makes them want to optimize. Either you get a Malay, or you get a Department of Government Efficiency, or you have Bitcoin. But something has to fix it from outside, not from within.
As countries deal with Bitcoin's rising importance, the debate about its place in the world economy will only intensify. Whether through government reserves or everyday use, Bitcoin has the power to change economies and give people more control over their money. The real question now is how fast governments and individuals will adapt to this shift. Stick around for more updates from us as this story unfolds. Anyway guys, before we go, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, make sure to subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top-on-chain analysis, trusted by over 50,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.